TallaBoogie entry for the week is from 2009, directed by Academy Award nominee Paul Weitz. It is Cirque Du Freak, the Vampire's Assistant. And this stars this kid, Chris Masaglia, and he plays a teenager named Darren. I'd never seen this guy before, which is kind of astonishing considering this is a movie with 4 Oscar-nominated actors, a really big cast overall, and a huge budget. And this unknown kid I've never heard of or seen before or since, was the star of it. It's kind of weird. But he plays this guy. He's obsessed with spiders. His best friend is Josh Hutcherson. He's obsessed with vampires. And they get these tickets to a freak show. And they go and meet this vampire, which is played by JCR. And some crazy stuff happens, which leads this kid, Darren, to need to become a half vampire thing in order to save his friend. And so I watched The Sorcerer's Apprentice last year or whenever it was for the Cager. That's probably a few years ago, actually. And I always thought this was like basically the same movie. I thought that because I hadn't seen them, and I still kind of do now after watching them. It's also a little bit like Renfield. Like, it's got that like glossy version of like an undead vampire or whatever the hell they are thing. And but JCR is awesome in this. He's like the performer at this freak show. And I feel like this is the kind of thing that got him, along with like Chicago, I guess, like the role in Stan and Ollie, like, because he's just like such a born performer on stage, and he's awesome in this. And I don't know. I feel like the movie's kind of smarter than it should have been. It's co-written by Oscar winner Brian Helgeland, and the problem is it plays for mass appeal when, to the point that I don't think it really knows who it is or if it's for anybody. It's like silly when it should be dark, and the backstory is like really dark and rich, but it's like a PG-13 movie, so it can't ever really go there. It just doesn't understand what it's actually going for, I think. There's a lot of colorful characters in this. You got ones by Ken Watanabe, Willem Dafoe, Patrick Fugit, Ray Stevenson, Jane Krakowski, and Salma Hayek. The second straight TallaBoogie entry where she's playing JCR's lover. I don't know what was going on there. It's kind of weird. The costumes and stuff are really cool in this. The effects and makeup. The problem with the movie starts and ends with Josh Hutcherson's character. It's like, they never figure it out. It's so dumb. But that's like holds it back from being like a modest recommendation. It's just like it's just like a Sorcerer's Apprentice, and it's almost the same title. It's 2.5-star movie. But it's actually kind of like a high 2.5 stars, just because, I did sort of enjoy it. It's number 33 on the TallaBoogie. Puts it between What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Terry. 2 movies I don't really remember him in very much. So.
Terry with an I.
Terry with an I, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, isn't he like the local mechanic in What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Something like that?
No, he's the handyman who fixes
mechanic, same idea.
Well, he's like the only male role model influence in Johnny Depp's life.
Yeah.
But
I meant.
Cirque du Freak has to be the most Nicolas Cage, non-Nicolas Cage movie of all time. I mean, how is he not in this movie? I get that it's a little bit maybe before this era of Nicolas Cage, but like, I thought this was going to be an actual, when you said the film, I thought this was going to be a JCR Cage fusion, which would have been too much for the world to handle, I think. Certainly back in 2009.
Well, if that were the case, he would have already seen it.
That's true too.
This came out the year before The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like, I mean, they had to be like just competing from studios, just be like, we're both going to go for the exact same thing at the same time.
It's just this does feel like if it would be the title that Andy Samberg's impression of Nicolas Cage would bring up and go, "Why was I not in that movie?"
As he recites the alphabet. Yeah, it's interesting that it's a Paul Weitz movie too, or Weitz or whatever you pronounce his name, because he is not typically someone you associate with the vampire genre. I really like the movie In Good Company, which I don't think you guys have ever seen, but I would like actually be down to deep dive that shit 20 years later. And I recently, within the last year, watched Grandma for the first time, which I really enjoyed. So it's sort of an eccentric filmography a little bit. Obviously, About a Boy is a great movie too. But I'm intrigued by this review, and I might have to check it out at some point. Nicolas Cage would have made the movie better, though. And I'm also intrigued by the JCR Salma Hayek. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Unusual.
It was not planned at all. I didn't even know she was in it until I saw her, and she once again playing.
I mean, this was also in the era when she was with Adam Sandler in Grown Ups, so maybe she was just a little bit more, open-minded in her on-screen romances and relationships.